Hey Jess, this is a video for you to kind of get you caught up on stuff that we're doing. Hope you're feeling well and things are going well. We miss you here. So you're gonna have your folder. Let me pull this up for you. So inside your folder, I have a to-do list for you. This is a lot of work, so it may take you a little bit longer to finish it. I don't know how much you can do during the day, but this is kind of your to-do list. So you're going to watch this video, and then I have some worksheets that I explain here in the video. Sorry, I went out of order. You're going to complete this worksheet called Who Killed Mr. Factor, and then there's 2 short quizzes on Schoology. So right now, what we're learning is we're solving quadratic functions. So before we graphed them and we were changing forms, but now we're actually going to solve them. So I put this in your folder as well, so you can kind of take a look at the different learning targets and kind of understand what we're going to be working on. So this is just for your information. All right, so solving quadratic equations, we have 2 ways that we've been working on. One is by graphing, and I'm going to show you a really cool online thing that you can do for that. But graphing is when you can, where the parabola crosses the x-axis are the 2 solutions. So here's a little picture of that example. So you got -1 and 3 is where it crosses the x-axis. So then your solution is just -1 and 3. Quadratics are all going to have 2 solutions. So just remember that. And then factoring, we factor like you normally do, and then we set each set of parentheses to 0, and then you solve. So again, when you're solving quadratics, you want to know what your x value is when y equals 0. That's our whole goal when working with quadratics. So let me go through and show you a couple of these. First, the graphing. So here I am on, it's called Desmos. Did I lose you? No, okay. So this is called Desmos. Desmos.com. So you can type in an equation and then it shows you the graph, which is really great. So for example, if I put y equals x squared plus 5x plus 6. So it gives you your full parabola, and then you can hover over these points and it tells you what those points are. So if I asked you to solve this quadratic by graphing, type it in here and you look, your x would equal -3 and x would equal -2. So those would be your solutions to that quadratic equation. Okay, so graphing is really simple. We use Desmos to do that. When you take the quiz on Schoology, you're more than welcome to use Desmos. Again, it's just a matter of looking at where it crosses the x-axis. So again, there it's at -3, and here is at -2. This is your vertex. I don't need that when solving, and this is your y-intercept, and again, we don't need that either. So it's just where it crosses the x-axis. So here's another one. Let's do, so 2x squared plus 6x plus 9. Nope, not 9. Plus 1. All right, so then again, you could look, although this is not a whole number, but still you can see where it crosses the x-axis. So those would be your solutions. Okay, so that's solving quadratics by graphing. Super easy, super simple. Again, you can use this, it's called Desmos.com. So www.desmos.com. It pulls you up in here. It's great. You do not have to create an account or sign in or anything like that. You can just use it for free. So it's great to use for graphing stuff. All right, moving right along to the factoring. So with factoring, we're going to go back to this. Okay, so I kind of want to go over factoring with you again, just to make sure you understand this as we go through this. So the first thing, so if this is my quadratic equation that I have to solve, notice that it equals 0. They're all going to equal 0. That's how you know that we're solving this. So I'm going to factor. So the first thing I do to factor is I open up 2 sets of parentheses. X goes first in each one because the x is the variable I'm using. First sign comes straight down, so plus. This is a minus, so these two have to be opposites. So now I'm looking at factors of 36 that subtract to give me 5. So 36, we have 1 times 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, so, and 6 and 6. So which set of factors are going to subtract to give me 5? That's going to be 9 and 4. And the bigger one always goes first. So that's where we normally stopped. That was just it. We just factored. But now we're actually solving this. In order for this to equal 0, anytime you are multiplying something, in order for it to equal 0, one or both have to be 0. So we set both of these to equal 0. So we have x plus 9 equals 0 and x minus 4 equals 0. So if I solve this, subtract 9 from both sides, you get x equals negative 9. I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and you get x equals positive 4. These are your two solutions. So those are your answers. Okay, so notice on this, we can go through and solve this, but notice all we're doing is if we have x plus 9, our answer is negative 9. So we just flip the sign. Here, my answer is negative 4. I flip the sign, it's a positive 4. Okay, so that's going to work for all of them as well. All right, so let's look at the next one. So open up two sets of parentheses. X goes first. Both of these are plus, so both of these are plus. Factors of 20 that add to give me 9 are going to be what? It's going to be 5 and 4. And again, this equals 0. So I have to make this equal 0 and this equal 0, and then I solve it. So if I have x plus 5 equals 0, my x is just going to be negative 5. And if I have x plus 4 equals 0, my x is going to be negative 4. So my solutions are at negative 5 and negative 4. Okay? All right, number 3. So again, open parentheses, x for each one. This is a minus because it comes straight down. This is a minus, which means these have to be different. So this has to be plus. So I'm looking for factors of 8 that subtract to give me 2. That's 4 and 2. Remember, the larger one always goes first. So then my answers here are 4 and negative 2. Okay? Let's do one more. All right, so again, two sets of parentheses. I've got x. This one's minus because it comes straight down. This is plus, which means they have to match. So that one is also minus. Factors of 30 that add to give me 11 is going to be 6 and 5. So this is going to be x equals 6 and x equals 5. And those are your solutions. Okay, so what I want you to do, there's 6 problems left. I just want you to pick 3 to do, just to give you some extra practice so you know what you're doing. Okay. All right, now remember when we factored, we didn't always factor just this way. What happens if our a value is greater than 1? So remember AC method. So AC method. So we're going to do the same thing here. With factoring, we're still going to use AC method, and then we'll solve like we did before. So two sets of parentheses. We've got x and x. The first one is a minus. The second one's a minus, which means these have to be opposite, so that has to be plus. Now, there are no factors of 5 that subtract to give us 2, so we need a little extra help. So we ask for some help from our a value. So we're going to take 3 times 5, and that gives me 15. So now I'm going to look for factors of 15 that are going to subtract and give me 2, which is going to be 3 and 5. Bigger one always goes first. Now, we took A and C and we put it together to get some help so we could get 15. Now that A's helped us out, we don't need it anymore, so I need to take A back out. So we're going to divide by our A value. So divide by your A value. So divide by 3 and divide by 3. All right, so on this first one, it divides evenly. So this just becomes x plus 1. Now, before, when we were factoring, we would pull this 3 ahead because this doesn't divide evenly. This time, we don't have to do that. We're going to leave it as that fraction. So x minus 5/3. And again, this all equals 0. So like before, we're going to make this equal 0, and we're going to make this equal 0 and solve for both our x's. So our x here would be a positive 5/3, and our x here is going to be negative 1. Okay? If you pull this ahead and make this 3x minus 5, and 3x minus 5 equals 0, so if I had 3x minus 5 equals 0, if I solve that, I would end up with x equals 5/3. So by just leaving this, I'm actually making less work for myself. Okay, so you don't have to pull that ahead. All right, let's look at number 2. So on number 2, two sets of parentheses. We've got x plus and we've got x minus. We take 2 times 9, which gives me 18. So I'm looking for factors of 18 that subtract to give me 3. It's going to be 6 and 3. And then my next step is to then divide the a value back out. In this case, my a is 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2. This is x plus 3, x minus 3 over 2. So then my solutions are x equals negative 3 and x equals positive 3 over 2. Okay? So these are my two solutions. Again, quadratics, you have a squared, that means you have two solutions. Let's look at number 3. So on number 3, we have x minus and x minus because the plus sign means these have to match. 3 times 4 gives me 12, so I'm looking for factors of 12 that add to give me 8. That's going to be 6 and 2. And then divide by my a value. So this is x minus 2 and x minus 2/3, and then I flip the sign in order to get my solution. So x equals 2 and x equals 2/3 are my answers. All right, one last one. Open up two sets of parentheses, x plus and plus. Take 5 times 12 gives me 60, so factors of 60 that add to give me 19 is going to be 15 and 4. And then divide by my a value. Just don't forget to do that dividing by the a value. That's the part that most students forget to do. So this is x plus 3, and this is x plus 4/5. Flip the sign, and we get x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 4/5. Those are your two solutions, okay? All right, so what I want you to do with this is the other worksheet that you will see in your folder. So who killed Mr. Factor? So what you're doing is you are solving these. You can either solve here if you can write really small or a separate sheet of paper, that's fine. Once you get an answer, you mark it off over here and then you figure out who killed Mr. Factor, what they used, and where it happened. So it's kind of like Clue if you've ever played that game. So for example, in the first one, and all of these are AC method because that's what you're mostly going to encounter. So 2 times 9 gives me 18. I'm looking for factors of 18 that are going to subtract to give me 3. So that's 6 and 3. Divide by 2. So then my solutions here are going to be negative 3 and a positive 3 over 2. So if I go over here, negative 3 and a positive 3 over 2 is garden. So it did not happen in the garden. Okay? And you're just going to continue working on those. I do want to look at, so from questions 11 down, these are not in the proper order. This is not an ax squared plus bx plus c. So you've got to get everything together on one side and then solve. So let's take a look at a couple of these. Let's see, there's one I wanted to look at specifically. Okay, so number 14. If I want everything on the same side of the equal sign, typically we would say subtract 20x squared. But we don't never want our a value to be negative. So instead, we got to move everything over here with the 20x squared. So this would become 20x squared plus 21x minus 5 equals 0. Now I can start factoring. Okay, so like this one right here, I have 8x squared, and then I'll subtract the 2x and subtract the 3 equals 0. Now I can start factoring. Up here, all I have to do is add 9. So 16x squared minus 25x plus 9 equals 0. All right, Jess, hope that this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Hope you're feeling good. Talk to you soon. Bye.